welcome back to yet another episode of The Old, the New, and the Awesome over here on my channel. Of course, I am Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome, reminding you that over here we shoot the shit and not the messenger. And of course, my co-hosts are here as always on this extremely nice late spring / early summer day. That, of course, is Cammie and Stacy. Welcome, ladies. Always a pleasure to have you.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
And of course, a reminder to every single one of you, if you do enjoy what you're watching, do not forget to leave us a comment as well as giving us a like. We love to talk to you as always. And of course, if you want to see all the other stuff that happens over here on this channel, though for some strange reason, it feels like so much stuff is moving house and I really don't know what's left. But as long as this is still here, that's always a good thing. But what I'm trying to get at, everybody, is don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're up to date with all of our latest content. So it's time to talk about another month that was, and that of course is May 2021. And it's definitely been, at least I would think, a relatively positive month. A lot of interesting things have been happening all across the country in regards to the restrictions on the current COVID situation. A lot of states, including my own, have officially lifted the mask mandate, so that's very impressive. So I am just curious to see what's going to happen over the next couple of months over here in this country. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm very excited, and I really think that we're all going to have a very good summer. I hope that you both agree with me on that.
I'm gonna. I have plans already, but I had a good summer last year because I didn't stop doing anything. I have a 4th of July party every year, so I'm just doing my annual 4th of July party.
That's awesome.
Everything seems to be making positive progress.
I will agree. I mean, every week something good and positive seems to happen over here on my end. Every week I seem to have an opportunity to get together with a friend or a family member. I'm very excited to be seeing some more family on Memorial Day weekend. And I am just very excited for the school year to officially be over so my wife has a little bit of room to breathe, because this has been one crazy year that just needs to end for all the teachers out there. And I'm just excited for her to finally have some of that freedom and just enjoy a couple of months of that until the new school year starts up, which seems like the school year will be officially back to normal as it should be. So I'm hoping that that's going to be the situation for all teachers out there, because I truthfully appreciate anyone out there who is a teacher, because you really were just as essential and just as important as all the frontline workers in the medical field. So we congratulate you, and we hope that all of your close friends, family, spouses, whomever, truly give you the reason to celebrate and embrace your freedom for the summer, as you definitely deserve. So other than that, there's definitely been some interesting things that the three of us did in regards to tackling some popular culture. I definitely saw some interesting movies. I revisited some old favorites. I also read some really awesome comic books, and I've seen, based on what these two ladies sent me in regards to their talking points, some very interesting things as well. The one thing I want to start out with, I'm giving it to Cammie right now. You have been watching the original Pokemon series for the very first time?
Yeah, so anime, manga, Pokemon, the whole nine, I was very cognizant of it when it started, and I'm very much a pop culture junkie, but for some reason, that was just a whole, section of stuff that just kind of passed me by. I just remember it kind of starting, I'd say anime and manga kind of started at the end of my high school days, and so I was kind of interested, but I don't know, it just didn't fully captivate me. There was something about Pokemon, though, that I just thought it was so kid-like, I avoided it. And then my nephew is super into it, and all he wants to do is talk to me about it when we're on the phone together. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do this for Geo. And I just dove into the first of Pokemon. And now I get it. I understand the Pokeball. I understand chasing Pokemon. I now understand that craze of the Pokemon Go when everybody was going around trying to catch Pokemon. I get that now. But it's kind of endearing. It's still, in my mind, a little bit too young for me. But I just wanted to be the cool aunt and get cool aunt points. So I wanted to make sure I at least had some Pokemon knowledge under my belt. And I'm enjoying it. I mean, I'm continuing through. I've got the first 5 episodes down of the original, and there is so much in terms of Pokemon. So I know I'm very much behind the power curve, but I'm having fun.
That's good.
You are such a cool aunt.
Trying to be.
I would love to have an aunt like you.
I sort of have a cool aunt. My dad's younger sister was basically like my big sister. She is still awesome, even though I don't get to see her as often as I used to. She is always into all the stuff that I like, so we always have something to talk about. As a matter of fact, what was so cool was I was actually working on Thursday and actually attended the wedding of her daughter virtually. That was the weirdest thing ever, but the fact that I actually was able to do that was one of the coolest things I ever actually experienced. But yeah, I never watched the Pokemon series, Cami, but I actually do play Pokemon Go. It's actually one of the reasons why my morning walks are so long and tiring, because I'm constantly walking all over the place, because I've got a couple of gyms and Pokestops very close to where I live, so there's always something to gather. But I can't do any of the raids because I'm just in a small community and there aren't that many people. Like when I used to work in Manhattan, I could get into like 5 raids in less than 20 minutes because there were so many people in the city playing. But it's fun. I still enjoy playing the game a great deal. But it's nice to see you tackling other things because, I mean, geez, you've dived real deep into the comic book world. And I guess it's just because of the fact that you're a part of the That's Comical team and that manga and anime are going to play a huge role in our programming that it's sort of something that you wanted to catch up as well on. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, that, and I've been telling Shay for ages that I will try on some manga and some anime, and as much as I gravitate to the darker stuff, which I'm sure is definitely going to appeal to me, I think there are some lighthearted things that are going to be fun and worthwhile, and so I thought I'd start with something that just has such a craze and such a following that, you know, why not? At least I can say I tried it, and what's the worst you can do if you try something and you don't like it, you just stop watching.
Well, I would definitely want to recommend an anime to you then, because it's one that I actually just rewatched. It was a critically acclaimed show. It's very short. It's only 25 episodes, but it's based on a very well-known movie from Japan. I'm pretty sure that the both of you have heard the name Akira Kurosawa in your lifetime.
No.
Akira Kurosawa, Stacy, is one of the most legendary Japanese directors. He directed a film called Seven Samurai. You possibly may have even seen the American version of that story in The Magnificent Seven.
Nope.
Have you seen a Bug's Life?
Yeah, like Pixar?
Yes.
Yeah, when my kids were little.
That's actually based on the story. If you really,
okay.
Yeah, it's a very interesting story. So in 2005, there was an anime series that came out called Samurai 7. It's actually proudly called Akira Kurosawa's Samurai 7. It's the story, and it takes place in a post-apocalyptic future instead of feudal Japan. And there's a couple of additional things that the movie didn't have, because I did actually watch the original films of Seven Samurai and The Magnificent Seven, and I also do enjoy the more recent Magnificent Seven with Denzel Washington and Chris Pratt. I actually had so much fun with that movie. But I think that Samurai 7 is an excellent show. It really dives deep into character development, and it still keeps to the original film from the original director, and the music is absolutely stellar. I could not promote it enough. Stacy, tell us about Shetland. So you seem to be watching this show. I don't know what it is.
I freaking love it. So it's It's a British mystery show, British detective show. I recently got a subscription to BritBox. It's a British channel that I got through Amazon, and it only has British TVs and movies on
Yeah,
it.
I've heard of it.
I love it so much. So I was scrolling through and trying out different like detective series on there. And then when I got to Shetland, I stopped because I fell in love. I'm on season 3 or 4 now. It's just so good. It's actually set in the islands, the Shetland Island, which is north of Scotland. It's in between Scotland and Norway. And just the cinematography is so beautiful and so stunning. And you've got the ocean and the green rolling fields and sheep everywhere. And the actual like murders that take place and the mysteries are so good and interesting, and I love characters. I'm like obsessed, absolutely obsessed.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How long has this show been on?
I think there's 5 seasons right now, and then they just started filming in April for season 6 and 7.
Great.
So currently there's 5 seasons on BritBox, and then I'm gonna have to wait for the next season to come out, and I'm gonna die because it's so good.
Well,
I'll have to find another British detective show to hold me over until it comes back, but it's so good.
May I suggest Sherlock? I guess that's
I love
British.
Sherlock. I've seen Sherlock several times, but I could watch the old. They have the original ones with what's his name, Basil, like the original Sherlock guy.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they have all the Agatha Christie like TV series and movies, so I'm set. BritBox got my vote.
That is awesome. Glad you're enjoying it. So I think we're going to talk about 2 specific movies that actually hold the same name, because yes, I did actually see some new movies, even though I have not gone to theaters yet, but I will actually make this announcement because I have a couple of times. I am officially going back to the movie theaters on the first week of July. I am going to see Black Widow. I cannot wait. I actually was willing to go a little bit earlier to see In the Heights on the big screen with Jen, because she absolutely loves that Broadway musical, and we were very excited to know that the movie was actually coming out in theaters. And of course, Lin-Manuel Miranda, who wrote this play, is of course having a big part in the movie, even adding some additional songs. But because of the fact that it will also be available on HBO Max, my wife said, I think it will be best that we actually watch it from home, because I'll be singing out loud to every song, and I don't want everybody staring at me in the movie theater. So I was like, you know what? I'm cool with that. So yeah, we'll be going back to the theaters, but a movie that did in fact come out a couple of weeks ago was the new version of a very well-known name in the world of video games, and it was Mortal Kombat. I think all 3 of us have seen this movie, and I don't know about the 2 of you, but I did not like it at all.
I hated it.
I didn't hate it. So maybe I'll play the devil's advocate in this conversation. I think there were good elements of it. I think that it was just poor execution because it was rushed. You could tell that it was just too much shoved into that short period of time. So I don't know if you guys want to spill your beans first.
You cannot have a movie called Mortal Kombat and not have a freaking tournament. You can't. It's like, did you ever see the movie Euro Trip?
No.
Okay, then I can't say the joke because nobody would get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Okay, it's like the gay porno. The girls never came.
Yeah, it was bad. I feel like movie companies nowadays completely rely on the effects, and they're not putting much effort into the actual story anymore. And I was really disappointed in it. I was super excited for it. But we watched it at night with my 2 kids, my teenagers, who've never seen the original or this one. And both of my kids were like, this was terrible. And then immediately, as soon as that one finished, my husband was like, okay, kids, we're going to watch the original. So we did a double feature. What is that? Double feature. And we all like the original, even though it's like cheesy The original is so cheesy.
It is so cheesy. The special effects are not up to par compared to today's standards.
More entertaining.
It's got a good story. It actually is the closest adaptation to an actual source material of a video game in film, probably next to Warcraft, which I also absolutely love. But the original Mortal Kombat, which last year celebrated its 25th anniversary, and I reviewed it, is still fantastic because it is such a fantastic movie for the video game fans. And of course, how the hell can you beat a soundtrack like that? That's got one of the greatest soundtracks ever. And also, doesn't it star Bridget Wilson from Billy Madison?
Yes.
I love her. I love her.
The fact that the new movie didn't have that song in it, that Mortal Kombat song, I was waiting through the whole movie for that song to come on, and it never did. And I was like, what? Why? Why would you leave that out?
You made it way too serious for a movie that's not supposed to be serious.
No, yeah.
And they gave nobody any character development. I mean, like, of course it was really nice to see Johnny Cage's poster at the very end of the new movie, but this movie is not getting a sequel. I can guarantee you that. No way.
I'm okay with that. It's a bummer.
I just don't appreciate the fact that they just didn't do what they did with the first movie. They just stuck to the first game and they made the movie about the first game. We do not speak about the original sequel because it's terrible, because the fact that they basically took every other Mortal Kombat video game that they made after the first one and just conglomerated it into one hot mess is a terrible thing, though the Mortal Kombat Annihilation soundtrack is also still pretty damn good. I cannot deny that. But if that's the only thing that's really good about your movie, that says a lot about how bad your movie is. Now, I've said this to a couple of people. I love the fact that HBO Max is allowing me to watch all of these movies that are showing up in theaters that I'm not probably willing to go see in theaters because I'm just not necessarily interested. But the thing is, as I've been watching all of these new movies, I have not liked a single one of them.
No, because the Godzilla and King Kong one, it was the same thing. It was like great effects, but the story was horrible.
I mean, look, I'm hoping that now that the theaters are really now opening up, like they are really opening up right now, people are now going to the movies, that we're going to get good stuff moving forward. I mean, I don't know if the both of you saw the Marvel Phase 4 trailer reel, but all those Marvel movies that are coming out like in the next 3 years, like, oh my God, everyone is just excited to go back to the movies. And it's just exciting to finally know that all of those movies that were pushed off, we're finally going to be able to go and see them on the big screen. I mean, I actually do not think I will be seeing Space Jam in theaters. I know that a lot of people are excited for Space Jam: A New Legacy, but that's going to be free on HBO Max too, so I may just end up watching it on HBO Max. But Black Widow, I am definitely going to be seeing in theaters. There is no doubt in my mind.
So just to touch on my thoughts on Mortal Kombat before we stray too far away, I think that the beginning and the ending were very strong. I think that all of the backstory was very solid in terms of Sub-Zero and Scorpion's family lineage line, just kind of letting us know that. But I think that's where the story should have stayed. And I think that would have been a better build-up. I think that bringing in all of the characters was just kind of more for familiarity. But again, I always stress this, when you're dealing with a product or a fandom that has multiple generations in it, you need to adhere to the older generation before the newer generation, because you're more likely to get us to come back if you give us something to come back with. So being that, you know, I did use the term rushed, I do feel that by throwing in all of these other characters and then kind of almost like, I mean, I get that they were trying to make Cole Young the main character, so to speak, you know, to kind of set up for the potential sequel to Johnny Cage, but he was a weak ass character. I mean, who gets their wife to help them fight one of the coolest, you know, villains of this whole combat? There was just a really cheesy scene, and I think that they also yeah, very much so, but I think they also overplayed the idea of like finish him and fight, you know, like that was just so willy-nilly thrown in there, almost like, here, we're giving you a homage to the past, but no, you're making it a fun of. You're like almost in a sense you're mocking what we love so much about this. And the minute you say Mortal Kombat, we're gonna run, whether it's to our living room or to a theater. So at least give us something to talk about. So again, I think the beginning, the beauty of the backstory of the main two characters, Scorpion and Sub-Zero, was beautifully done. It was eloquently executed in terms of real beautiful fight scenes, and same thing with the ending. I think that final battle was great, but they did a couple of characters dirty, like Lao's demise. That was very premature in my opinion, and they could have used him later. I mean, he had such a skill set and such an offering to give a potential sequel. So yeah, I was very underwhelmed, and honestly, if there wasn't a sequel, I wouldn't care. Just like, okay, well, thanks for hurting my feelings.
I also think what's kind of funny is when you take a look at that movie and you see the special effects that they did on Goro, I would say that the one in the 1995 movie is not as bad. Like, I think that they were basically the same. And also the other thing I completely got to mention is Christopher Lambert as Raiden in the original film. I mean, yeah, I know there's a lot of people that are saying, yeah, Raiden should actually be an Asian person, but something, Raiden was lifeless in that movie. There was no depth to him. I didn't appreciate. I also really hated the fact that Liu Kang was basically like a fly on the wall throughout the entire movie. I just did not like that at all.
Yeah, in the original, I did not like Raiden, the guy who played him, because in my head, that guy is the Highlander. He will always be the Highlander. He can play nothing else. And so to me, he's like, that's all I see is the Highlander.
Yeah, but I will say there was a movie that really did surprise me. It's actually on Netflix. It's the animated film, The Mitchells versus the Machines. Up until then, the only movie that I actually thought was great that came out in 2021 was Zack Snyder's Justice League. That was the only decent movie that I watched all year. Mitchells versus the Machines was a big surprise. It is a fantastically fun movie. It's something that the whole family can enjoy. The animation is extremely unique. You will never see another animated film like this anywhere. And that movie got rave reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, regardless of whether you care about those ratings or not, from the critics and also from the fans. People really enjoyed it. And I laughed my head off. I cried a little bit at the end. There was a lot of different emotions. It was a perfect package of what makes a truly great family film, and I highly recommend it. I mean, if I'm going to rate that movie, I would definitely give that movie a perfect 4 stars as opposed to Mortal Kombat, where I would probably have given it 1.5 stars. But I would highly recommend Mitchells versus the Machines if you haven't seen it yet.
I need to watch it because that's my maiden name.
Oh, yeah? That's really funny.
I know. I saw it. I was scrolling through and I saw it and I was like, oh, that's weird. So I need to watch it just for that.
And also, there's so many Saturday Night Live cast members who voice characters in this movie. I know that Maya Rudolph is in it. Fred Armisen is in it. I also know he's not a cast member, but I know that Danny McBride is one of the voices of the cast. Just a great group of people. Everybody did such an amazing job. I highly recommend it. It was so much fun.
Conan O'Brien's in it.
That's right.
No, it was a lot of fun. It was very surprising. I very much enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it to anyone also. I think it was honestly one of the best animated features I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah. I'll have to watch it. Yeah, I was only going to watch it because of my last name, but I guess I'll watch it because of the recommendation now.
I think it really is the surprise of 2021. The funny thing is, it was supposed to come out in theaters last year, and it actually had a completely different name. The movie was originally called Connected, and nobody had any interest in it. But all of a sudden,
I wouldn't have watched it.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden, the movie gets a name change. It goes straight to Netflix, and everyone goes bonkers for it.
How weird.
Yeah. I really love it.
It's a much better name than Connected.
Absolutely.
It's definitely not just about being connected. I mean, you really are working with technology on multiple levels in this film.
So, of course, I also had to watch an old movie that I've never seen for the very first time, and I also wanted to watch an old favorite. So the movie that I chose was actually celebrating its 50th anniversary. It was The Last Picture Show. I know that a lot of people talk about it. A lot of people say that it is a very unique, morbid slice of life story. It's got some very good cast members in it, including an extremely young Jeff Bridges. I don't think I've seen Jeff Bridges ever look that young before. And I believe Sybil Shepherd is in that movie as well. I didn't love the movie, but for what it is and what it represents in film, I understand why it's extremely praiseworthy. So I didn't hate it at all. I did enjoy it for what it was. I would probably give it 3 stars out of 4. I mean, the fact that it was a bold statement to make a movie in 1971 black and white is always something that is risky to do. Just like, when they decided that in 2011 we're going to make a black and white silent movie called The Artist, and it ends up winning Best Picture. That says a lot about your movie. So, yeah, it's a very unique slice of life story about a decaying town during the Korean War in Texas. And it's all about these young people that are just trying to figure out where they want to be in life, and they just can't seem to find the answer.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting movie.
I haven't seen it either, but I have heard about it. When I took a film class, I had heard about it, but just never added it into my sequence.
Yeah, I would definitely say if you want to see something that's really gonna hit hard at the heart, it's definitely something that would be something to give a look at, especially if you're a fan of Jeff Bridges and you just want to see him looking like a 20-year-old. That's one thing. But
he's from Tron, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's also well, he's more than just Tron. He's done so many movies. Yeah. So I mean, But
that's where I associate him with.
Yeah, I associate him. I do love Tron, but I always associate him with The Big Lebowski. That's my favorite movie that he's in.
Yeah.
He is so funny in that movie, even though John Goodman totally steals that movie from him.
Yeah.
So my old favorite movie that I watched was celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, and it was Adam Sandler's Happy Gilmore.
Love it.
The 90s is such a unique time period because you really could make extremely stupid comedy plots, but the comedians that were starring in those movies turned them into comedy gold. I mean, seriously, if anyone else would have been starring in a movie like Billy Madison or Happy Gilmore, I don't think that those movies would have been as successful as they were. Or like Chris Farley and David Spade and Tommy Boy.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, I don't even know how movies like those were even thought of at that time, but it was a different time, and these movies are just so good. They're so good.
They're so good because they have all the best one-liners, and back in the day, that we would all just repeat everything that we heard on these movies over and over again. And it now being old and looking back on it, if you say, "Stop looking at me, Swan," everybody knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my favorite part. They're hilarious.
Billy Madison, yeah, I love that. That's also one of my favorite lines in Billy Madison. Happy Gilmore, I mean, oh God, just, are you too good for your home? Just tap in. It's all in the hips. You're gonna die, clown.
Yep.
Oh, of course, the scene where he beats up Bob Barker, then Bob Barker gets up and kicks his ass is always legendary.
Uh-huh.
I still love the fact that when that movie was being made, Bob Barker was actually going on all of these talk shows and was telling people that Chuck Norris was his personal trainer, and the whole world got shook in amazement.
The majority of these movies were successful because, I mean, think about the time that was really when the SNL cast was dominating theaters.
Yeah.
And so you had people like Adam Sandler basically writing his friends into these movies. I mean, he basically took the SNL cast and just did as much as he could with them for as long as he could. And then, of course, they all got their own notoriety and their own pictures and stuff. But I think that we've had a few very unique casts in terms of SNL that have gone on to greater success. And Adam Sandler is just living proof that, if you've got a good thing, ride it until, you just can't ride that wave anymore. He's funny. He's extremely talented. He's multi-talented in terms of, he can write, he can direct, he can act. So a full package like that too is going to take a movie to box office success time and time again. And he has a really great following of friends. I mean, not just his SNL cast, but I mean, he's like a dynamic duo when it comes to working with Drew Barrymore, and she's one of the Hollywood greats, So, I mean, when you've got it, you've got it. And I think that, as cheesy as some of his movies are, you've seen them, and it doesn't matter whether you like slapstick comedy or not. You can say, like Stacey was saying, those one-liners will stick out in your head, and you, as an individual, you can say, I've seen that movie, and probably more than once.
Yeah.
He's also got Happy Madison Productions, and that is doing a lot of stuff all across movies and television. I mean, Happy Madison Productions, I believe, is responsible for a bunch of television shows that are on the air right now. I feel, unfortunately, as a comedian, as a comedic actor, I think he's sort of faltered over the last 10 years or so. I haven't really seen a movie of his that I really liked that he starred in as a comedy person, but I did see Uncut Gems, and I thought that he was stellar in that movie as a dramatic actor. But everybody keeps forgetting that his biggest moneymaker in terms of films over the last 10 years has been the animated films of Hotel Transylvania, which are brilliant.
I love those movies so much.
There's a massive SNL cast in there. David Spade, Andy Samberg. I mean, I love the fact that they're all there. I just saw the trailer for the fourth movie. It's coming out in July.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, he did a movie. He just did a movie, like 2 years ago with Jennifer Aniston. It's on Netflix, and it's a murder mystery movie, but it's a comedy. I don't know if you've seen it. I can't think of the name of it. Dinner Mystery or something. I don't know. But it was him and Jennifer Aniston, and they were married. And it's like, look at him and look at her, but they were the perfect couple. And I love that movie. I thought it was so good. It was so funny. If you haven't seen it, you should totally watch it. You would love it.
That sounds good.
But they go on vacation to Europe, and then they witness a murder or something. I can't remember, but it was really good.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel so bad because when you take a look at what's been going on in our culture these days, these movies wouldn't even fly today. It's it's so hard to find a truly great comedy film these days. I think the last truly great comedy that I ever watched in theaters was Bridesmaids. Ironically, another film that starred a lot of SNL cast members.
Yeah.
But it's just so hard because, I mean, especially in days like today where people like Chris Rock and Billy Crystal are actually getting interviewed and writing in articles in newspapers about how comedy is dying because you just cannot be funny anymore because everything you say is like stepping on a minefield. It's absolutely disgusting to me that people in this country and all around the world, these ultra-sensitive people just don't know how to take a joke. Not everything that is said is meant to be serious or mean. People make jokes for the sake of just making you laugh. And truthfully, you can't truly appreciate comedy until you learn how to laugh at yourself. If you can't laugh at yourself, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah. So I grew up with my family making fun of each other, and it would be like you would do something stupid and they'd be like, what are you, Polish? That was just how I grew up. So making fun of yourself is normal. It's not mean, it's just normal.
Yeah. I don't know. People need to learn how to laugh again. People just need to know how to be funny. I mean, I think the person who is the major advocate of what's going on in comedy right now, like Jerry Seinfeld, he's constantly talking about how everything is going in a horrible direction. Bill Maher, who is as left-leaning as they come, is sick and tired of this crazy culture that's happening right now. It's insane.
I believe it's Chris Rock that he has a podcast that he interviews comedians and basically kind of just talks about all of this transformation in comedy, what used to be deemed acceptable in comedy and in stand-up, and now kind of the evolution of where we've come with these politically correctness and the cancel culture ideas and these things where comedy has changed, but we have forgotten the whole reason why people go to comedy shows, you know, is to have an escape, to laugh at ourselves. And 9 times out of 10, you're sitting in the audience and that stand-up comedian is going to make fun of everybody in the room. And that's just what you go for. That's what you pay for. Everything's funny. Nobody gets offended. You leave laughing. You probably make a new friend. I couldn't tell you how many times I've frequented comedy clubs growing up in my 20s and 30s and loving it because you have that dynamic in the audience. You know, you make eye contact with people, you get it, you know, you're clapping, you're like, I got you, I see you, you know, we've been there, we understand that. And no, a joke is not for everybody. And yeah, sometimes jokes can be offensive, but chances are if you get offended one minute, guess what, you're going to turn around and you're going to laugh at something else. So it's just the nature of comedy. And I think that, like Steve said, we need to go back to learning how to laugh again, how to just kind of take it a little bit easier on ourselves as not only people, but as a society.
I mean, clearly it's out there. I mean, if we really were entirely in the place that we're talking about, shows like Family Guy and South Park wouldn't even be on the air anymore, you know?
I'm shocked they are.
Well, we got to talk about that though, because they used to be on, you know, like firing squads on a weekly basis. I think that it's just become so happenstance that we've kind of become accustomed to how they are and how they behave that we don't really think twice about it, but they're still extremely controversial. I mean, to the point where I used to love watching South Park, but it got to a point where it was just too much for me. Same thing with Family Guy. I mean, everybody has their cutoff. Everybody has that threshold of what they will and won't accept. And I think that it's up to the individual to kind of just create their own boundaries and barriers. Some people are solid, you know, they'll take anything. They kind of just let the water beat off of them, so to speak. But, you know, for me, I think as I age, there are certain things that bother me maybe a little bit more. Maybe it is, you know, my circumstances, my background, whatever. I think it's all contributing factors. But I've outgrown all of those shows too. And as a matter of fact, I just watched the vaccination episode of South Park a few weeks back because I just wanted to see what, you know, it was all about. I knew they were going to have shock and awe. It was funny, but, you know, it definitely wasn't the thing that was going to pull me back into South Park. I've outgrown it, and that's okay. I loved them growing up in my 20s, but they're not for me in my gonna be 40s, you know? So it's okay. We can love stuff and then outgrow it, but that doesn't make it bad for other people.
I mean, even Saturday Night Live is still on the air and it's getting decent ratings. So that also is like, I'm just trying to figure out, if we're not supposed to be funny anymore, how are these shows still funny?
SNL is not funny.
Yeah. I honestly, I never watched Saturday Night Live. I never did.
Oh, I've always been a fan of Saturday Night Live, but again, like I said, it comes in waves where you have those really great casts. The cast right now has a couple of spectacular people that are definite standout that you know are going to go somewhere and have bigger careers, but this is not a cast that is going to go on to greatness. And I watched it for the first time 2 weeks ago because Elon Musk was on there, and I wanted to really just see what kind of person he was. I've never heard him speak publicly other than about his business. So I'm just like, who is this character and what is he? He was hilarious, by the way. I absolutely love his personality. He just made that whole show wonderful, but all of the skits were just ridiculous. And I just feel like they're trying too hard. And when you get to a point in a show where it's very apparent that you're trying too hard to make people laugh, you need to reconsider your writing staff and you need to consider the direction of your show. And I feel like right now Saturday Night Live is really lacking. So no,
I don't think I've watched it since Will Ferrell was on it. It's been that long.
I watched reruns of the show like during normal day hours because I liked to sleep on Saturday nights. I was a sleeper, but I know about all the big names. I know about all the great sketches, especially up until the early 2000s. I didn't really watch anything after that, even though those casts were great because they had, you know, Andy Samberg, Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig, Maya Rudolph, like they're all wonderful. Leslie Jones is a riot. There's really nothing more that we could say about this, but there's still a couple of other things that I'm noticing here. And what is this, Cami? What is You Love Me, Caroline Kepnes?
Oh, it's a book. So you ask us if we're reading, and I'm not reading as much these days, but
same here.
I'm obsessed with this series. It is a series. So it started off with all the craze. A few years ago, Carolyn Kepnes released a book called You, and its main character is Joe Goldberg, which Stacy has also read, and she did enjoy that one.
Yep.
And then it was followed up by a second novel called Hidden Bodies, which Stacy did not love. I did not hate it. But it was definitely, and you know, you can say that about most sequels. Either it's going to be spectacular and it's going to almost outshine its original, or it's going to be like dead in the water. So for me, it was kind of mundane, but I didn't hate it. And then there's this. So You Love Me is the third in the You series. And again, we visit Joe Goldberg, who is our main character. And he is a lovable psychopath. I hate to say it. He is a lovable psychopath / sociopath. I mean, he has sociopathic tendencies as well. But I just feel like, how many times can we beat a dead horse, you know? And I really feel that this, for me, is that novel. It definitely left it open-ended for a potential fourth book in the series. I'm sure this will end up being like a 5 or 6 part series, if not more, if the book sales are there. And I'm sure she's already pinned a deal for at least 2 more. But this book was just so much. I mean, the characters were just not that lovable. Joe Goldberg was even kind of, you know, half-hearted. It was almost like he was so good this time that you wanted to slap him bad, which is bad, that you want to make a sociopath be more of a sociopath just so you can enjoy your novel, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I talked to a few other readers in the community, and I'm glad to say that I am not the only one that's feeling this way about book 3, but I just wanted to, you know, put it out there that I have read again, which is good, because I have been just kind of in a reading, not a slump, but I've just been focusing on other things.
Truthfully, Cami, I think I can explain it. You are not necessarily in a reading slump because, like me, you are reading a lot of comics. So you are in a book slump. Yeah, same here.
Yes, there you go. I'm in a novel slump. Yes.
You're in a book slump. Yeah.
I've been reading a ton of graphic novels and comics, though. So yeah, you should see my reading log for those.
I actually didn't intend to talk about it, but I will. I don't have the book with me, but just the other day, I got Brandon Sanderson's graphic novel, The Dark One, Volume 1, from Vault Comics, and holy cow, he does it again. Brandon Sanderson, he is really my favorite author in books, and I always say to people who have never heard of Brandon Sanderson, the reason why I love him so much is because he writes books like comics, and now he's officially given me a comic that I can sink my teeth into, even though he has written another one before this that some of our friends over at That's Comical have recommended to me specifically. But The Dark One is an amazing supernatural fantasy story. It's got a lot of twists and turns. The artwork is beautiful. Definitely some interesting horror elements in it. Cami, you would eat it up. I know it. But in regards to an amazing comic book series that I read, it's actually 3 things. It's Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I read volumes 1, 2, and 3. And they are written by James Tynion IV, who is currently writing Batman. He is currently writing Something is Killing the Children. He is writing so many additional things, and he is about to release another horror story on the DC Black label called The Nice House on the Lake, which I am very excited to read. It's a 12-part maxi series. I didn't know anything about this crossover book series until I went and watched the animated film, which is beautiful. Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is such a great animated film. It is the crossover we all never knew we wanted until we saw it. So I had to read the comics because I love the author, and I was extremely impressed by all 3 stories. The first one is loosely what we get in the animated movie, but a little bit more on the darker side. A lot of people don't like the second one, but I really like it. Basically, Bane crosses over into New York City in the Turtles world and gives the Foot Clan venom. including Bebop and Rocksteady. So they're like beefed up beyond belief. But what I really like about that story is it really harps on Donatello. Donatello is the brains, but he's a little upset that he doesn't seem to be contributing too much in regards to being the brawn. And we really see an excellent story told from his perspective. 3 was probably my favorite because the big baddie was Krang, and he takes on an element that is predominant in DC called the Crisis. And the story itself is called Crisis in a Half Shell, where the worlds of Batman and Ninja Turtles are turned into one universe. And Batman's origin story is tweaked a little bit in the most brilliant way. And basically, it's all about these two groups of characters, Batman's world and the Ninja Turtles world, realizing this is not real, this is not what it's supposed to be, and they basically try and break free of the Crisis binding and stop Krang. I was very impressed by all 3 of them. I don't know if there will ever be a 4th series, but I highly recommend it if you're a Batman fan, if you're a Ninja Turtles fan, or if you're both.
Where's the
I'm both.
the cartoon? Where did you watch it?
The cartoon, I am not sure if you can actually watch it on HBO Max right now, but I own it on Blu-ray. But that is where all the DC animation projects are. I would not be surprised if this movie is on HBO Max right now.
I'll look for it.
You'll have a great time. It is so
Sounds
fun.
good.
I know Cammie's seen it too. She loves it.
I own it. I love it.
They need to make more, plain and simple. After reading all 3 of these series, I want another film.
Well, it definitely left it open-ended for one.
Yep. So this is a name that I have heard a couple of times, but I don't know too much. Cammie, explain to me, who is Matt Haig? This name sounds so familiar to me, but I don't know why.
So the name came across, I mean, he's actually been an author for some time, but the name came across because I kept seeing a book in my feed over and over again for The Midnight Library, which is his latest release. And I had heard mixed reviews about it. So I'm not one to typically gravitate to books that are all the hype and all the rage. I wait for things to kind of, trickle down a little bit and just kind of see the overall consensus. But the cover was stunning and the premise was super cool. It was kind of like the butterfly effect, but through novelization. That if you are able to kind of choose your story, so to speak, like you walk into a library, you've encountered the afterlife, but you can kind of select your story as a novel and fall into the story, and you basically stay in that story until that life doesn't suit you, and you can keep doing this until you find your life. And I thought, wow, what a really cool concept. But you do find that you fall on tragedy in this book quite a bit. There is definitely a content warning for suicide because this book is heavily drowned in depression and suicide. Not to a point where it's depicted often or acted out, but you certainly get to some heavy points on it multiple times from multiple novelization perspectives. But I was just so enamored with the story. I immediately gave it 5 stars. I could not stop talking about it. And I said, okay, I need more about this author. So it immediately took me into some of his other work. And I read 2 of his other books. I read The Humans as well as The Dead Fathers Club. That's what the other one is called. I love them both. I would kind of give The Humans kind of a sci-fi humorous perspective. And The Dead Fathers Club, it kind of reads like a middle grade novel. So you kind of get the Graveyard vibes from Neil Gaiman, but very humorous. And it was a very cool story. So I am just really taken aback by his writing style. I think that he has the human perspective down very well. So if you enjoy life moments, but with humor and with pop culture references that work, because I'm not a fan of pop culture references that pull you out of the story, he does them very well, especially like in The Humans. He's got this moment where and it's a very brief moment where he comes across a character that has kind of a altered dimension where he's not from this planet. He's in a mental institution, and his home planet is Tatooine. You know, just like little things like that, you know, that give you a little nugget to love, but not too much to pull you out of the story. So again, I cannot praise his writing enough. I really think that both of you would enjoy his work, and I highly recommend the Humans to start there. But I was just blown away. His writing is just beautiful, tragically beautiful, which I love authors like that.
Yeah, I definitely think that I am going to be planning on reading some actual books very soon. I mean, I know that I just mentioned Brandon Sanderson. I picked up his superhero trilogy, The Reckoners, and I know that at some point in time, I'm also going to finally get myself a copy of the Neil Shusterman Scythe trilogy, because everyone and their cousin twice removes talks about that stuff. But yeah, it's good to know that that's a book series that's an author that's worth checking out. I'll definitely be looking forward to more of your thoughts on other books, Cami. So I know that we normally talk about the topic at hand at the beginning of the show, but we decided to switch things around just because of the fact that the topic of discussion is one that's specifically Cami, I know, is just dying to talk about. She's got a lot of thoughts, so we're going to unpack it today. And it is the whole concept of separate the art from the artist. We're living in a strange world right now. Cancel culture is crazy. The latest author, though she has been a victim for quite some time, for amongst other things, is Sarah J. Maas, clearly because of the fact that she talked about her Jewish roots and that she appreciates the country of Israel. She never said anything politically. She never said if she supported Zionism or not, or her thoughts on the conflict that, thank God, came to an end very recently to a certain extent. We know the conflict is never truly over. But because of the fact that she said those things, she was immediately labeled as a Zionist, and everyone who was against Israel was basically saying it's time to ban her books. And the reason why I personally wanted to talk about this topic is because the shirt that I'm wearing is exactly why. I'm wearing a shirt from a band called Iced Earth. They're a heavy metal band. They've been around for a very, very long time, and I like them because they are the kings of the concept albums. They made an album that is all about horror movie monsters from Universal. They did a whole album that was dedicated to great moments in American history. In that album is a 23-long ballad of the Battle of Gettysburg. The shirt specifically has Todd McFarlane's Spawn, because the album is called The Dark Saga, and it's all about Spawn, which is awesome, and that's actually a Todd McFarlane drawing of Spawn. So why am I talking about this band? Well, apparently, this band was in the news very recently because the person who founded this band was in the Capitol riots. And he was one of the first people to actually come clean, plead guilty, and confess. So I was unfortunately heartbroken because I'm not going to go
in the White House?
He was one of them, yeah. He was also one of the people that sprayed somebody with bear mace. I didn't know that this guy had that attitude. I knew that he was someone who embraced politics because I did listen to a 2000 interview of him, and he talked about the founding of the band, and politics was definitely something that he was very much into. I mean, he's definitely someone who loves America, because if he made an album like The Glorious Burden, which is all about American history, you know, a song about 9/11, a song about the signing of the Declaration of Independence, one of the greatest renditions of the Star Spangled Banner I ever actually heard. It's right up there with Jimi Hendrix's and Boston's. But I was definitely upset because, look, I'm conservative, a collapsed liberal, now known as a conservative with a liberal ear, but I am not someone who supported what happened on January 6th. I'm sorry, I do not. I thought it was a terrible thing, and it doesn't matter who it was. It happened, and it shouldn't have happened, plain and simple. But this band has now officially disbanded because they removed themselves from getting to be associated with this guy. And as someone who loves this music, I don't want to stop listening to this music or wearing the band shirts because I don't support the actions of one person in that band. I support the music. I support the concept albums. I support everything that they have provided in the world of hard rock and heavy metal for the last 25, 30 years. That's why I wanted to finally bring this to the table.
Well, there's a lot to unpack, and there's a lot we can talk about.
For sure.
And there's definitely different perspectives that you can take. I can certainly see and understand both sides, which, God help me, that's already starting off on the wrong foot for so many people, because God forbid you should be a voice of reason and fall somewhere in the middle and be able to see the right and the left, you know. Not in reference to January 6th. I mean, anybody that is American and in the right sound mind knows that what happened on January 6th was not American. It was unconstitutional. It was disgusting, and it was a disgusting display of you know, just privilege, I guess. I hate to use that word, but I mean,
truthfully, Cami, I don't really know how you could perfectly describe that.
No, and I agree with you, and I'm not trying to interrupt. I agree. I don't think there is a way to execute the explanation of that, because it was a vile act. No matter what side of the political coin you fell, watching that happen was disgusting. It was like taking it to another level. But I think that anybody also, again, coming from sound mind and understanding the technological world that we live in, knows that a lot of that stuff for a moment was almost unbelievable, like it was staged. And there are so many unexplainable things that occurred that day, from the police holding the gates open. And I don't really want to rehash all of that, to be frank, but there was just a lot of unexplained things that occurred leading up to the moments that essentially looked like the doors were just left wide open for these people to come in. It was almost like they were inviting the trouble just to see what kind of chaos could ensue. Was I there? No. Do I know exactly what took place? No, I don't. So I'm not going to sit here and assume. I just, you know, as someone of sound mind, I'm just like, something's not right there. So I don't fully believe that if that was properly structured with security, that would have ever happened. But what I think any sound American can agree to is that that's what our Constitution is built on, that we are the people. We are the people that the Constitution references. And if something isn't going right for us, the people, the taxpayers, that's exactly what we are supposed to do. We're supposed to speak up. We're supposed to raise Cain. We're supposed to show up and say, hey, we're paying your salary to sit behind those desks. So the least you can do is listen to what we have to say. Now, there's a very different way of handling that, you know, going to an organized meeting, showing up in a three-piece suit, you know, that kind of a thing, to have your voice heard, not coming in with a damn, you know, buffalo hat on and a, you know, caveman costume. But, you know, that is really what I think a lot of people missed, because there was so much chaos. And again, that's why I think a lot of that was staged, is that the overall message was clouded because we had all of this shenanigans going on. You know, kind of focusing on what you're saying in terms of eye-opening. So now you have this kind of division where us as consumers are forced with a heavy hand to look at entertainers and actors, actresses, musicians, you know, anyone in a public forum that is paid to entertain us, how we're spending our money. So, you know, from our vantage point, we tend to talk about books and movies more than anything else, I think, you know, on our respective channels. So we're going to be a little bit more honed in on those particular niches, those particular markets. You know, how is an author behaving? How is an actor behaving? What are they saying? And so because we're so tuned in now to what they're portraying, it really forces our hand at looking at this separation. Can you separate the art from the artist? And, you know, the argument can be made, no, you really can't. And had you asked me that a year ago, my answer probably would have been very different. But you have to be able to look at something from a logical perspective and then come in with your opinion. And I think this has fallen short on our society quite a bit, where we can't focus on the understanding. We can't come in with the happy medium. We just come in with our opinion, and either you're with me or you're against me, or you're, for this or you're against this. And if you are on the opposite end of my spectrum, then I can't have anything to do with you. And I can understand to a point trying to disassociate yourselves with people that don't necessarily correlate with your morals and values and principles and your vision of your life. I get that, take out the garbage, so to speak. But where we have to be able to logically look at things is, there's a person behind everything, whether that be an author or an actor. And that person, regardless of how you feel about them personally, their ideals, their morals, their values are going to intrinsically appear in their work, whether that be a painting or a novel. And I think one of the best examples I can give from personal perspective is that of Stephen King. Stephen King is a very well-known author, but he's extremely political, and people are just noticing this because he has a lot more time to sit at home now. He's in his 70s and he has a Twitter account. God forbid, someone else with a damn Twitter account. And he sits at home and he tweets. I don't know anymore because I'm no longer on Twitter, but I think that people are thinking that now he's all of a sudden political, during the Trump administration.
Yeah.
He was far more political back in the 70s and 80s. Read his books. You will see that. I mean, they're very much laced in all of his stories. But the problem is that the difference between then and now is now we are driven by social media, social platforms, and everyone that has a social platform has a voice, has fingers to type, has an opinion to make. And so we put so much emphasis on this very small, minute area of the internet, which is Twitter, and the focus is then put on what's trending, and I think that the problem is that Twitter has kind of overshadowed regular media. Before, people would look to the news to give them their insight on what's going on in the world. Now people look to Twitter, and a lot of the things that are put out on Twitter are not verified. They're not fact-checked. And so people just want to be the first to trend or the first to get the most likes. And so they're sharing all of this untrue, data or articles. And then you kind of get this mix of the story, like what's the truth and what's the lie.
Hold on one second, Cami. Just hold that thought. Just hold that thought. I want to just agree with you by saying it's also really funny how Twitter seems to be the end-all, be-all for everything right now in entertainment. It's like, be careful what you say or the Twitter mob will come after you. It's why everyone, whether you're a politician or a pop star, you literally have to watch everything that you say, because if someone in the Twitterverse finds it, they're going to, I don't know whether they truly despise what you've said or they're just looking for their 15 minutes because they got nothing better to do with their lives. But it's like everyone these days is trying to avoid the Twitter mob because they just don't want the headache.
Well, look at Chrissy Teigen, what she's going through right now.
I don't want to talk to every single time I hear that name, my head hurts.
I know, I can't stand her, and I'm glad she's finally getting her comeuppance, because she acts all holier than thou all these years on Twitter, calling out everybody else, and yet she's the one who's actually DMing people horrific things. So I'm glad she got caught, but yeah, it's out for her right now. It's all hashtag cancel.
But Chrissy Teigen is a perfect example of the opposite of cancel culture, because she's loved because of who she's married to. Let's face it, we wouldn't even be having her name in our mouth if she wasn't married to John Legend.
John Legend's overrated.
She's been garbage to me since day one, but that's just because she was very outspoken prior to having married John Legend about her views on America, period. And I was very taken aback by her then, and I just never really got that bad taste out of my mouth. You know, it's like vomiting and you have that aftertaste in the back of your mouth. That's Chrissy Teigen to me. She's the vomit on the back of my throat. But that said, you know, she's a perfect example. She's a perfect example of someone who we are going to talk about. We are going to put her in a negative perspective of the ugly things that she has said to a multitude of women at a multitude of age ranges in very sensitive areas of their life, you know, when they are attempting suicide, when they have had an overdose, all of these things which women should be, you know, empowering or women uplifting women, right? But no, not when that person doesn't suit your image. And so therefore she's okay to talk crap about these ladies, threaten them, say all these hateful things, but you can bet your ass Chrissy Teigen is not going to get canceled because of who she's married to. And that's the shitty thing about it, is that, yeah, we're going to hear really bad things about her for a while. And yeah, she might lose a few followers here and there, but the woman has over 30 million followers on Instagram. That hasn't changed since Candace Owen has went on a personal vendetta attack against her. There's been some changes with some retailers in terms of, you know, selling her books or her products. But again, is that really hurting her? Not really.
No, because Verbo is still keeping her, and they just posted a picture of John Legend on their IG account, and everybody on IG is like, hello, are you not getting rid of Chrissy T? Like, what are you doing?
I mean, look, take a look at the other hot button name, J.K. Rowling. We all know what she's about right now.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, everybody is literally there's actually come to a point where some people are basically saying, stop trying to cancel J.K. Rowling because you are never going to win that battle. She has too much money, too much power, all because of the fact that she created Harry Potter. I mean, look, I had a conversation with a very good friend. I told him my attitude about Harry Potter. He told me his attitude about Harry Potter. We're both very different in regards to the fact that we have our attitudes about J.K. Rowling. Look, my attitude is I don't care about what she says. I'm not interested in what she says. I'm not even interested in Harry Potter fan fiction. I just like the movies, I like the books, and I like the Funko Pops and every other thing of Harry Potter that I buy, from t-shirts to wands. That's what I see. When I pick up an item that is Harry Potter related, I don't say to myself, yay, here's some money for you, Miss Rowling. No, I never think about it that way. It's Harry Potter, because as far as I'm concerned, Harry Potter has gotten bigger than her, that in my attitude, Harry Potter belongs to the fans. I don't believe that it truly belongs to her anymore. It really is something that belongs to the fans. She made it for the fans. But if you don't want to buy her merchandise and you want to get her books secondhand, you know, you do you. That's cool. The thing that you need to understand is you need to stop painting everybody with a broad brush just because of the fact that someone is buying something that happened to have been created by a person that has not said such nice things about certain people. It doesn't mean that that person is doing it because they support what that person said. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Do I agree with what she said? No, I do not. I think that what she said is hurtful, but my attitude in regards to the things that she said about those people, I'm neutral. I have no say in this fight. It's not my battle. But that's the other problem. I'm in the middle here. So I'm technically the enemy to both sides. And that's the problem.
Well, when I was on the hate forum, aka Twitter, I made the executive decision not to follow Stephen King for that very reason, because although I love him as an author, although I will still review his books and discuss him publicly, I was just so overwhelmed with his political viewpoints and just his insatiable desire to kick up the dust, so to speak, that I really got a bad taste in my mouth about him as a person. Now, does that change my viewpoint about his writing? Absolutely not. But I was vehemently aware in the back of my mind that Stephen King has always been like that in his writing style. So it was really no surprise to me to see that on his Twitter page. However, I have the choice whom I choose to fill my feed with, and I chose not to put him people I chose to follow at the time that I was on the platform, because unfortunately Twitter has a really bad algorithm where if you follow someone but don't block them, you can still see them if somebody else follows them, and so you're still seeing the same garbage anyways. And so because I was following some other authors that are very close to him, I was still seeing this crap over and over. Well, moving aside from that and just commenting on the J.K. Rowling thing, I think that's where we finally started to kind of see the merger of this new movement that we have in society of the this or that, you're with me or you're against me, because of the things that she said, whether you agree with them or not. And I'm really neither here nor there on it because I'm not a subject matter expert and I didn't follow the story closely enough. I read the letter or the article that she wrote, but being that I chose not to involve myself, that already put me again in that neutrality zone where I'm choosing not to pick a side because I'm not an advocate on either side of things. I'm not, one to use my platform for the LGBTQ plus community. And so therefore it was very hypocritical of me to weigh in on something that I don't normally talk about anyways, which automatically makes me the enemy because I'm not picking a side. Where a lot of people talked about though the art from the artist or supporting the art in that case was, okay, so you're of the generation where Harry Potter was the new thing. You read it growing up. I really wasn't. I was in my early 20s when Harry Potter became a thing. So really, I was quite old for the fandom, but I got on the bandwagon anyways. But the thing was, is if you had got in on it early enough, you already purchased all that stuff. So your money already went to her. The argument was, are you going to continue to buy in? Are you going to continue to buy these books as they come out in, different formats and all of these things? Because then you are actively contributing to the pocketbook. And I know that you just said, well, I don't see it that way. You might not see it that way, but that's the reality of it, is that you are financially contributing to someone, whether you like it or not. If you are actively choosing to buy something, you are buying into their universe, their fandom, their fan base. And so you have to ask yourself where your moral compass is. If you're not okay with what was said and done, and you're buying brand new stuff that is legally marketed through the Harry Potter trademark, then yes, you are not separating the art from the artist. You are, by definition, contributing to that. However, if you are buying stuff aftermarket, like from a collector, like say on Etsy, someone who makes their own things, or you're buying secondhand, as you mentioned, then you're not really buying into Harry Potter. Somebody else already contributed to the trademark. You're just simply buying something that you love from a secondary source. So in that case, you're not financially contributing. I also saw a great number of people that had huge followings based around the Harry Potter fandom that said, look, I love it. This is obviously what I have marketed myself around, but now I'm going to step back from this and I'm going to love it privately. And there's nothing wrong with that either. That's not saying I take a stand negatively or positively. I'm choosing to just love what I love privately. Then there's some people who just don't give a flying flippin' fish, and they're like, here's all the Harry Potter all day, and I don't care what you think. Yeah. And sometimes they're just doing it for attention. Yeah. Me personally, I have my little Harry Potter section. Again, I bought into the fandom as it was coming out, but I have not added anything new other than Funko Pops, and I haven't even done that in well over 2 years.
Yeah, same here.
I haven't come out with any new ones that I've liked.
I lived in England when Harry Potter was coming out.
Nice.
I read the first 3 books of Harry Potter in England, and I used to go to King's Cross Station all the time. And in King's Cross, when Harry Potter came out, they actually hung up giant life-size characters that were flying around on brooms above the trains. And they had the little cart thing where you could go into the wall. So for me, it's a bigger part of my history because it's, one of the best times I ever had in my life living in a foreign country. So I associate it with that amazing time in my life. And so I would never hate Harry Potter, but I don't really care either way, really, about J.K. Rowling. I feel like there's people out there famous people who have said and done way worse than her. So she's kind of like, like, I don't really care.
I mean,
but
the truth of the matter is, like, you know, Universal Studios, no one's boycotted Universal Studios because kids are still going to Harry Potter World. It's one of the most amazing places.
It's so freaking cool. My kids got wands at Oleander's. It's amazing.
So did I. I got a couple of them.
I'm not getting rid of those.
No, there's a Harry Potter store that's opening up in New York City in June. It's like the Harry Potter experience. My wife and I are going to go. We're very excited to go. I'm still waiting for the last 3 Harry Potter illustrated editions because I've already bought the first 4. And I'm rereading those books in those editions. And it's like reading the books for the first time because you have this beautiful artwork from Jim Kay. Yeah. And that's the other thing that it's like, when I buy those books, it's like, it's also for the artist. I love Jim Kay, the artist.
Yeah, you're supporting him too.
I'm supporting him. I don't know what his attitude about J.K. Rowling is, because as far as I know, he hasn't denounced her, and he's still in the middle of writing and illustrating books 5 and 6 at the moment. But I already know that I'm hated on Twitter without even voicing my opinions on these matters. You know why? You go onto my Twitter page, there's an Israeli flag, number 1. Number 2, my pronouns aren't there. So already I'm the enemy of so many people, and I don't even realize it. It's crazy.
Well, here's my frustration with social profiles is, okay, Steve, you're Jewish. You should have every right to place an Israeli flag without qualms, but people are going to judge you without even knowing that. But the thing is people are forcing your hand to constantly remind the general public, because you're choosing to have a Twitter profile, that you're Jewish. That is, to me, such a dig at who you are. It's constantly like, you have to prove to us why you're doing what you're doing continuously. Explain yourself, yet the rest of the population, which is really a very small fractional percentage of individuals causing all this mayhem, don't ever have to prove why they do what they do or say what they say. I never put pronouns on my profile when I had it because I find the they, them the most confusing thing on planet Earth. That's not disrespecting anybody who chooses to use them, but I grew up in the 80s and I was a prodigy child of the 90s. They, them is used in plural settings only. That's how my brain works. I'm too old to teach this dog new tricks. I'm sorry. I'm not going to retrain my brain to do a plural pronoun to explain an individual who, by all rights, has every right to express themselves how they choose. It's their body is their vessel, how they choose to dress, speak, act. All of these things are yours, but don't impose your morals and principles and values on me. Let me have my own set of morals, principles, and values. And that's where we have yet to learn in this society, is to respect other people. People want respect, but they don't give respect. And again, this goes back to the old school mentality of yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. We have completely lost the respecting your elders, respecting boundaries, respecting property, personal space, all of this, because social media has made all of these things normal. We don't have religious respect. We don't have sexual orientation respect. I can love you for who you are and not believe in or fully embrace all of your lifestyle choices, but that doesn't mean I don't like you. That just means what your choices are for you aren't what my choices would be for me. That doesn't make you a bad person, but it also shouldn't make me a bad person for standing my moral high ground.
I mean, this might be extremely offensive to some people, but it's like the best way to explain it is, let's say that you smoke, okay? I don't smoke. I may not be thrilled about the fact that I'm your friend and you smoke because I know what the results could possibly be, but you do you. I'm not going to force you to change your lifestyle at my expense.
Well, and I mean, think about something as basic as that, you know, and it's kind of sad to say that because smoking and drinking are kind of the gateway, as they say, to more toxic things. but we don't bat an eye at people who drink or smoke or do drugs most of the time anymore. It's just like, but we will beat somebody into the ground for having a religious perspective. We will beat somebody into the ground for having a social sexual orientation perspective. And it's like, where did we get off key? Like, where is our compass facing anymore? We will focus on the craziest things and leave these big, huge, elephant in the room nowhere to be found, because we are losing focus on the bigger picture, the who we are, the genetic makeup that makes us unique and individuals. We are no longer a society that embraces differences. It's like we all have to be carbon copies of the same, and that is so boring, and that is not the way we grew up in school. We grew up embracing differences and uniquenesses, and wanting to know more about people and why they do what they do, and going home and saying, cool, that's what you do, now I'm gonna go do what I do, and we can still be friends.
I mean,
I don't know what happened to them.
I mean, wasn't it Barney the dinosaur who said, "You are special, you're the only one like you"?
Well, shoot, we can give credit to Fred Rogers before anybody. I mean,
of course.
Fred Rogers really did pave the way for complete protection of the mind, body, spirit, soul, and he genuinely loved children, and he wanted every child, whether they had parents or not, whether they had a solid, stable background or not, to know that they were loved and they were valued and that they were unique and they were perfect just the way that they are. Mm-hmm. And I think, a lot of adults could stand to go back and watch a few episodes of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and maybe they might heal themselves, because I think part of the problem is the fast society that we've created, that we are such a go, go, go society and trying to outdo the next, that we will literally cut our own nose to spite our face, to spite our cause. And it's like, we lose focus so frequently that we almost sometimes hate ourselves for the things that we were just barking up somebody else's tree the week before. I think that it does take someone getting burnt or being on the other side of that negative coin to fully embrace the understanding of cancel culture and what it means to be canceled, what it means to be burned. And I don't think that until that happens to somebody will they have empathy and or sympathy for someone else who has gone through that. And sadly, I think it's going to take a long time for every individual to have gotten to that point, that it might just be too late. We might get to a point where everybody just says, screw it. And, we just become a society of division, and we're fine with it. It's like, you all do me, and we won't talk to each other. But you lose that whole perspective and mentality of love thy neighbor, which again is based on Christian principles, but the basic core of humanity is, do unto others as you would want done unto yourself. Whether the basis of that is in Christianity or not, it's just common courtesy and kindness. Don't be a dick to somebody, and just know that if you're not being an asshole to the common greater good of society, they're probably going to treat you with a decent amount of respect too.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the reason why I decided not to be a Democrat anymore. I appreciated the concept of being an individual and actually thinking for yourself and building a life and a world for yourself. I mean, that's one of the few things that my father taught me a long time ago, because I was always a good kid. And I always liked the ability to help other people. But the thing was, at one point in time, my dad said this to me numerous times, is you got to stop focusing on the needs and wants of other people, and you got to start focusing on yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself before everybody else, you're never going to find that happy world that you want to live in. And look, that's unfortunately the way I live these days. And people call me an asshole. People call me selfish, because my number one priority is me, myself, and I. And yes, my wife is roped into that. It's me and my wife, and then it's my family, and then it's my job, and then it's everybody else down there. So no offense to you both, but you and everyone else that is dear to me that is not blood related is at the bottom of the totem pole. I love you guys, but the thing is, you both understand that because you feel the exact same way.
Yeah, my hierarchy is a little bit different. I put God first, family second, then everyone else. But yeah, for me, I definitely feel that too. I feel that, I guess my thought process is kind of the same, but it's just different, just slightly, in that you have to take care of yourself first, because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. You can't be there if you're not mentally or physically, or, you know, if you're not healthy, you're not going to be able to help people. And I think that that has also kind of been lost on society, is that we are here, whether people want to believe it or not, to continue humanity, you know, to continue on the human race. And in order to do that, we have to take care of each other. And we're not doing that right now. We're taking care of each other in these small little sections, but we need to be on a much broader scale in order to be successful at beating this game. And even just taking care of the planet and the environment and the things that are in it, you know. But that again is a huge broader spectrum, and not exactly what we're, you know,
I don't even know what is going to be the savior. I don't know what the saving grace will be in regards to this matter. I really do not, because everyone thought it was going to be Joe Biden, and clearly he's not.
Oh God, I knew that wasn't the case. He can't even take care of himself. Please.
Oh, I just love the fact. I just love the fact that the people who voted for him are now going against him because of some of the things that he's been doing lately, which is actually kind of funny.
Well, the frustrating thing for me still, though, is to see in people's social posts saying that this year is so much better than last year. And it's like, what fucking rock are you living under? It is not better by any stretch of the means. Yeah, we're able to take our masks off in certain places, but beyond that, we are actually in a much worse state than we were a year ago. So really get off your fucking high horse. Gas prices are almost $4 a gallon. Like, seriously, get over yourself. Biden is not the end all tell all. And I also didn't like, kind of at the end of that whole political debacle, even before we hit 2021, people saying, well, you know, I don't believe that Biden is the end all tell all, but he's better than the alternative. What the fuck is that saying? You know, so you again, cut your nose to spite your face. No. I'm floored by some of the shit that I see on social media that people like and clap and share and retweet, and it's ridiculous to me. And that is why we are where we are, because we are just a regurgitation of fucking garbage.
Okay, so before Cami officially loses her mind, I think this might be officially a good place to actually stop. Clearly the dog agrees. So anyway, thank you both. It was a fantastic episode. I mean, hell, this conversation might actually be far from over. I'm pretty sure that there will be something else to talk about. I mean, heck, if we really wanted to, maybe next time we'll talk about the craziness that just shook up the entertainment world, unless you both didn't hear about that. But we'll talk about that when the camera goes off. But anyway, everybody, thank you very much for watching another episode of The Old, the New, and the Awesome. And we are looking forward to another great episode. I know that I am very excited because of the movie that I am revisiting next month. You both, of course, are always able to join along with me. It is kind of crazy to believe that this film is 15 years old already, but I will be watching Martin Scorsese's Academy Award-winning film, The Departed. It has been a while since I've actually seen it, and I am looking forward to watching it again because it really is good. I still don't think that it was worth Best Picture. I still think his best movie is Goodfellas, but we will talk about that next time. We will see you all in the next one. If you enjoyed the video you just watched, feel free to leave a comment. Also, feel free to subscribe if you want to be up to date with our latest videos. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next one. Actions speak louder than words.